Thank you very much. We want to thank AAU for giving us this opportunity to talk to these high-level people because we have been talking about universal acceptance since many years now, but things are not changing. And then we are glad that we have a partnership between ICANN and AAU. My name is Yaovi Atohun. I'll be presenting for Dr. Sarmad, who could not make it. We are both at ICANN, and many people know ICANN. Before coming to this meeting, we were communicating with AAU by email through web platforms. So some key element ICANN is coordinating are the domain names. If you have your email addresses, some of them in Namibia, .n is ending that. Some are ending by .org, .com. So these are we call them the top level domain. And then also technical people who are connecting our devices. Today we connect computers, many devices today, so they use IP addresses. So ICANN is the organization globally coordinating the allocation of these resources. So the IP addresses, we have regional internet registries. The one for the Africa region is Afrinic. And I think also academia is very welcome to contribute to the policy discussion happening in Afrinic level. You may know that Afrinic is going through many issues since many months, but we hope that this will be solved. So I'll be briefly talking about universal acceptance. Why? Because today we are living in a multilingual world today. And then English is not the first language, according to some data we are sharing. English is not the first one. You can see that you have first Mandarin, and then you have about 1,300 million people speaking Mandarin. And then after Mandarin, we have Spanish. You have English coming at the third position. So, and then we have many languages, Chinese, Hindi, Japanese. So, and also in Africa, we have a lot of local languages in Africa. We know most of them, they are using the Latin script. Some languages in Africa, they are using the Arabic script. In Ethiopia, for example, they have their own script, the Ethiopic script. And then many languages in Ethiopia, they are using the Ethiopic script. So because of this world today, very multilingual, we have today the option at ICANN to have all the communities using the languages to fully use the services available on the internet. We are not talking about content today when I'm talking about universal acceptance, because you have a lot of content in many languages. You have the domain name, you have the URL in ASCII characters, but you have content in many languages today. So universal acceptance is not about the content, it's about the domain name. And as you can see, we have many scripts today in Africa, and we have also many scripts around the world people are using. So people are able to do everything using their own characters, their own code, when they want to use internet. So what is universal acceptance? So universal acceptance is the fact that people can use all the platform and then use all the scripts they want to use. So through universal acceptance, people who develop, provide, or manage online website application, they have the opportunity to enable users globally to experience the social and economic power of the internet. So we'll talk more about what is universal acceptance. Again, it is about domain names. So you can see that today we have many community having access to the internet. They use internet. And then we hope that the organizer will share the presentation with you. You see that we have today a diverse community diverse languages spoken over the internet. So today, someone can give you a business card today. Someone can give you a business card, and you'll be in a position not able to read what this person has on the business card. Like if I get a Chinese business card today, now, I may not be in position to read the email address of that person because I don't know Chinese. But we have a very huge community of Chinese users, and these people, they are in position today to do everything they want using their own script, their own characters. We have people using the Arabic script. So we can have people, or you'll see people with business card, you see their email addresses in Arabic. And these people are in position today, they can use everything on the internet, not just with the ASCII characters, but their own script, the characters available in their script. So we have some example. When we talk about internationalized domain names or IDN, is because of the fact that today you don't have domain names only in ASCII characters A to Z. You have domain names in many other scripts today. That is very important to note, that we have this already happening. Many people are using their own script to use the services available on the internet. So you have various communities. You have the Armenian community, Georgian community, Korean community. You have the Arabic community. You have the Chinese community. You have the Greek community. So what ICANN is doing, we are working with these various communities to develop what we call the label generation rules. Because to use the internet, there is something, the technical people, they call it the domain name systems. So to have the domain name system works, so we need the communities to tell up language specialists, not only computer people. ICANN is not just for, it's not for technical, we are a technical community, but everyone is bringing his input to what ICANN is doing. I want to mention that we have 3 public meetings every year, and every meeting you have about thousands of people coming to this meeting, and we discuss a lot of our policy. So community to help, they help ICANN to define for each script community which character can be used for a basic repertoire we have for the domain name system. So we are in position to work with the various community to have what is important for this community, what can be used for this language community. So especially in the Africa, we have the Arabic panel, generation panel, not only in Africa, we have contributors for Africa who are in this panel, where we were working on the panel for the Arabic script. The same thing in Ethiopia, we have people from academia, people from the community, language specialists, computer specialists, so they set together to work on the rules that will define the repertoire for the Ethiopic script. In Africa today, you have .ma for Morocco, for example. When you get an email address with a domain name from Morocco, it is .ma. You can see if you use the ASCII character. But today you can get also an email address from someone in Morocco, and this person is not using .ma. He's using the top-level domain name, but in Arabic character. So we have some countries who have also the ASCII characters for the top-level domain name, and they have also the top-level domain name in other scripts. So we have some in Tunisia, for example, they have also the Arabic one. In Egypt, they have also the Arabic one, and we are having more people who will be using other script than the ASCII character that we are used to. So we have also what we call the internationalized domain names. So today we have a lot of top-level domain name, not only using the ASCII characters. So we have that in many languages. It's also very important to know that we don't have just few top-level domain names today. When you have to ask services for providers, developers, please choose what is suitable for what we are doing. We don't have just a limited, as at the beginning, we have about 22 top-level domain name, .com, .org, .net. We have this at the beginning, but today we have more than 1,000 of top-level domain name. You have hotels, you have .engineering, you have a lot of new extensions that you can use today. And then we have them not only in ASCII characters, we have them also in other scripts that are different from the ASCII script. So what is happening today because of these new domain names in older characters? What is happening? Like you can go to a website of an institution, for example, or a newsletter. The case I have on the screen is for a newsletter. So someone is on a page of the newsletter, and that person wants to subscribe to this newsletter. So that person enter an email address, and the system is saying that, please enter a valid email address. The system is telling the person, enter a valid email address, just because the system is not ready. The system is telling the person, enter the valid email address, just because the system is not ready. This email address can be maybe in this case, maybe this email address, the extension is longer, more than 3 characters. So most of the programmers, many programmers, they may not be aware that we have today longer top-level domain name. You know, we have also .africa today. You can take also .africa for your higher education institution. If I know the name of your higher education institution, I can go and see the people who are giving .africa. I can take university .africa if you don't take it. So please, if you see that there are some extension very, very important, some extension, you can also take this extension in addition to what you have. So people, technical people in our universities, they know how to do it so that even people type each of these domain you have, they will point to the same email address. So this case on the screen is just because this person is using an email address in characters that are not ASCII. So if the system is not ready, the system will tell the person that, enter a valid email address while this email address is valid. Or the extension has a longer character set, like .engineering, for example. You can have .engineering for your universities, your engineering school. So that is one reason. So we have done some studies, and then we see that today we have a lot to do because most of the email address websites, they are not supporting email address internationalization. So when you have the slide, you'll see that we have less than 10% when the left side of email address is Unicode, and you have the other side in international domain name. So it's just an example that we have a lot to do. So many websites are not ready. They are not allowing people to use the email address they want, while these email addresses are correct. And we are almost 100%, almost close to 100% when everything is ASCII characters, the A to Z. So you can see this result. So we need to do a lot to get this solved. We have also some statistics, okay. It is about email servers, because we have 2 things in our universities. We have our email systems in the universities, and then we have also our web platform in the universities. So also we did some tests, and we see that we still have many email systems which not support email address internationalization. Why? What is the meaning? Someone can send you an email or send an email to your institution using like an Arabic email address, and you will not get it. Even the person will write the content, the message in English or in French or in Portuguese. The fact that the person is using an address that is not in ASCII character, so you may not get it. So we have a lot to do. So we think that is also very important that in Curricula we consider the universal acceptance issue in Curricula today. There is a very important step we need to take in universities. I want to move quickly to why it is very important for academia today. We need to upgrade our university website and email system. This is very important. So we have a partnership with AAU, and we are able to have a workshop yesterday. We thank AAU for that. The IT directors, some IT directors from the sub-region, they came to a workshop yesterday, and we talk about this because it is very important at the university level to do some upgrade or updates. So it can be an upgrade or update in two situations. So it is important to upgrade or update the website of the university and the email system. So at the end of the presentation, you have some links. Today you can just put your email address on the website, and you will see if the email system of the university is ready. Very simple. So we have a tool today developed by ICANN and the community, and you just put your email address in this tool, and the system will tell you if it is ready or not. So it is also important to upgrade the IT curricula to include teaching and learning of software internationalization. So many programmers today, when you are doing programming, it's important to know that we have a lot of new domain names. We have domain names in other scripts than ASCII, and also it is very important to create awareness on this topic about universal acceptance. So what I want to say also is very important for academia to the curricula in computer science, for example, is very important to update the curricula. So we have today, we are working with the community to have more on fundamental on international of universal acceptance. So we are working on this topic, and then also programming languages. So it is very important today in programming languages to consider some issues, and then to also know that it's very important to make correction where needed. So people were in the workshop yesterday. We had the opportunity to discuss this. So it is also important to introduce a student to a universal acceptance of domain name. Again, it's not the content, it's domain name, not the content domain name. Very, very, very key today. So also computer security is very important. Because of international domain name, emojis should not be also used in domain name. So we have all this information for a student. When we are touching security, people may use emojis for domain name, but it's not recommended. So people developing mobile applications also, it is very important to be aware of all this new development. So we want really universities to be involved, to get involved. So on this slide, you have a contact. When you want to know more about or to get in touch with this program at ICANN, you just send an email to uaprogram@icann.org. So we have a department fully in charge of that. And because in ICANN we have a community playing a very important role, we have the community we call Universal Acceptance Steering Group, UASG. So when you go to UASG website, you have a lot of content, you have a lot of documents that your department, technical department, can use to organize workshop for students. And the last address you have on that slide is usd.tech. When you go there to this address, you will find a link which tell you, test your email address. So when you put the email address there, you click on test email address, you'll get a result to know if your email system is compatible or not. So if it's not compatible, please talk to your IT department or people servicing you when you talk about email services. So I want to thank you for your attention. I want to stop there. So we are around, and I think because of time, we can also chat after the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joy and Yaovi, for your interesting presentations. Joy has encouraged all of the rectors, vice chancellors, presidents, deputy vice chancellors, directors, to engage, with her. Her company is ready to assist us, and I think she is encouraging all of us to learn more about the open science policy dialogues, so that we can table this at Senate, so that our various universities too can engage in this very important domain. For Yaovi, he's spoken to us about universal acceptance, and he is available all week too for us to engage in discussions and understand better. He's advised that we upgrade our IT curricula. And I thank you all, both of you, for your presentations. And I think we can have a few questions before. Okay, Professor.
Thank you to the two presenters. I'd like to comment very briefly on the open science presentation. Open science, the way I understand it, is not necessarily physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, or adult science. It's just very, very broad. And I'm aware that the open science concept dates back 1600, but it's only about 10 years ago that the concept of open science started to gain visibility. There is one physicist that we studied while we were in high school, Sir Isaac Newton. He had 3 laws of motion. The first law of motion is called the law of inertia. And I'm letting you know that inertia must have to kick in at this time. And the law states, this cup, or even myself sitting down, I will continue in my state of rest. Or when I'm moving, uniform motion, except an impressed force acts on me. This impressed force is this awareness raising that you are giving to us. But you see, the way I suggest we go is for the vice chancellors who are here to get greater awareness. We have the number one of the vice chancellors, Professor Salami, who is seated over here. That's the chair. You can see all women, all of them. My vice chancellor is here, also a woman. Don't take over, all of you. Now, what I suggest that she should do, because it's a bottom-up approach thing, where the institutions will have to develop their policies. We have indicated over there that, yes, 15% in Southern Africa, 10% here, and all of that. It has to be so. This thing is just 10 years old. And so, inertia, it has to be gradual for us to live together. If, when my suggestion is taken, come another 10 years, we'll find that the situation will change. What is the suggestion? Suggestion is for the Committee of Vice Chancellors, say in Nigeria, convene a meeting, and maybe you can talk to them virtually, and then let them gain deeper understanding beyond this 15-minute presentation. After that, the Vice Chancellor will now set up a group that will discuss open science. That group, that's an ad hoc committee of Senate, can then report to Senate. And over time, there will be an institutional policy on open science, after which there can be a national policy on open science. That's my suggestion. I would like my friend on top-level domain issues, I want to leave here to have, I have a lasso.edu.ng address. I want to have .aau. It's not there. So give us .aau before the close of the... Possibly, Wale, don't you agree with that? We have to have .aau. Okay, .africa. No, he hasn't got that one. .africa is anybody. I'm talking about this, our great association, AAU. get it. If we use it, fine. If we don't use it, .Africa is broad. It's a generic thing. You know, I'm in this business of computer science education. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Prof.
Thank you very much, Joy, for your wonderful presentation. What I understand this to mean is that you are trying to expand what we have in what we call open education. In open education, you have open access, open learning, and open scholarship. What you are saying in open science is part of open scholarship. However, it also goes into the open educational resources. And it looks like you are just taking a part of that open education resources, and librarians are running with open science. My understanding of open science is talking about accessibility to published articles, to journal articles, to articles that are in public research, etc., etc. This is only part of open educational resources. And in open science, there are 4 principles. The principle of findability, the principle of accessibility, the principle of interoperability, and the principle of reusability. All these are part of open educational resources to which all universities must be committed to, and all universities or higher institutions in Nigeria are already committed to. By law, by government declaration, every university must have an open educational resources policy. In fact, there's a national policy on OER, and when we worked on that, it was chaired by my good friend, Professor Okebukola. I'm sure he can talk to you about that. So what I'm trying to say is that while you are mentioning this, and I think we need your comment on this, is to talk to us how this relates to or with open educational resources, or how it goes very far away from it, or is this just what the information scientists or the librarians are trying to promote and carve a niche for themselves? Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Now, today there are about 7 pillars of open science, and some of what you've mentioned are the pillars of open science. And thanks for mentioning the FAIR principles, because those are key to making work accessible, any kind of research accessible. So when I'm talking about open science is actually the umbrella of all those key pillars that you've mentioned. And what we are noticing is that universities or even governments are taking just aspects of those pillars. So what we're saying is that this has to be wholesome, the whole aspect and spectrum of what pertains open science, because there are implications. So let's look at open knowledge. The implication on open knowledge is that you need to use infrastructure, okay? So if most of us cannot afford some of the existing scholarly infrastructure, we need to adopt open infrastructure. And that leads to your comment again on what type of infrastructure should we have. These are infrastructural systems that must be fair. So meaning the information you put in there must be findable, accessible, the infrastructural tools need to be interoperable, and the data needs to be reusable. So what you've also mentioned is also a concern that was presented to us, that there was an aspect of open science that the librarians, and I hope some of them are here, the directors of library sciences, were running with, and that was on open access and open knowledge. What we're saying is that look at the big picture, which encompasses the entire research life cycle of any institution. So that will cover publishing, open access, open knowledge, education knowledge. We are looking at also even open communities as well. And then open infrastructure, as I said, there are about 7 of these pillars. So cover that in one spectrum so that our university is adequately supported. So yes, we're trying to break those barriers, because the conversation on open science was based on some of the pillars, not everything. So now when we and that is the reason why we have open access mandates and policies within institutions, just focusing on publishing, conveniently forgetting the infrastructural support. So we want this, and this is why also UNESCO came up with the open science recommendations on open science, so that we can understand the various spectrums of open science and how we can implement them uniformly within institutions, so that we do not have siloed conversations regarding the issue. I hope I've answered the question. Yes.
I just want to thank Prof. Regarding a comment on .aau. I would like to inform the academia community that we need really the academia and policy development at ICANN, and we are very glad with this partnership between ICANN and AAU. To have new top-level domain name is a very long process. We have around in 2012, so after 2012, we have more than 1,300 new top-level domain today, especially the generic one. But at that time, in 2012 round, to apply for the top-level domain name, it was about 185,000 US dollar, 185,000. And there was a program to support the application. So people were able to ask for support for this application. So like if you want .aau, we are currently in the process to have the next round of applications. So I think it's the best time, it's a good time. So we'll follow, you should follow the discussion about anytime you hear about a next round of generic top-level domain. So anyone who is interested of a new top-level domain name should apply, and then again, this support will also be available for some application. So this is what I want to add. Thank you.
I do have a microphone.
Yes, I was just going to ask you. Go ahead.
This is a very important topic on open science, and I think this is where we need to share lessons, especially those of us who live in the diaspora. We faced the same problem, but we used what is called shared governance. Senators are comprised of administrators and faculty, lecturers. So those of you who work in the libraries, you need to engage the senators. And in my own institution, the senators are the ones who came up with the policy. And once the policy was there, the librarians came in. Now, when you drop your budget as a librarian, in the past you talk of books. Now we established a grant for open access publishing. And this grant was being given on competitive basis. So if we are working on articles, we would apply to the library, and somebody said we need to prioritize. Funding is always limited. So the library would say, oh, we've already funded the first 200 people who applied. Then we said, what do we do next? When we submit grants, we now build in a budget for publishing open access. So when we do research now from those grants, when the time comes for publishing, we can use grant money, something we had never done before, using grant money to pay for the articles for open access. So I think shared governance is key. Don't just focus on vice chancellors alone. Focus on the lecturers also. Lecturers, faculty are very creative. They will help you solve this problem. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the way we were doing our open science dialogue was not only the leadership within universities, but also the academic community as well. The dynamics in the African university, especially when you look at it from the organizational structure, the director of library sciences, unless they are vocal, I'm saying this because the leadership is here, unless they are vocal, they will not be heard. And that is why in our meetings, we made it clear that we needed to have the directors of library sciences, We needed to have the vice chancellors, the deputy vice chancellors, including the vice chancellors in finance and administration, because there's going to be a cost element. At the end of the day, there's still going to be a cost element, so that they can be of one voice. And that is when we realized, number one, was that the directors of library sciences were presenting a one-sided story to the vice chancellors, and that was on the aspect of open access, because it's a low-hanging fruit, okay? And the vice chancellors did not quite understand how open science can contribute to university rankings, because we had to show the business case of how open science can contribute to the competitiveness of an institution. And at the same time, we also need to take a step back and put ourselves in the vice chancellor's shoes. The vice chancellor might like the idea, but he has to present it to Senate. And we were in situations where we saw Senate, because we were invited to a few Senate meetings. We were in a situation whereby the vice chancellor is advocating for open science and the Senate is shooting it down. These are dynamics, these are unique dynamics that you find within African institutions, and that is why we felt that it was important when we were having these open science dialogues, we bring all of them together, let them fight it out, for lack of better words, and then come to a consensus. So even though we are looking at the 11%, I can comfortably say it is the first time we are seeing librarians now comfortably talking to leadership within universities, and vice chancellors presenting this in Senate meetings, because they're a bit also aware of what it entails, especially from a business perspective. That is also what we need to look at. We need to look at open science from the business perspective. How will it make the university competitive? How will it attract more students? How will it attract funding? You know, that whole spectrum. So that is why, even though it's 11%, it's better than them saying, no, we are not interested in it. But we are seeing positive responses as we are moving on. Thank you.
Please.
Good afternoon. I want to, first of all, commend the two presenters, and to also say that about 5 years ago, that was the first time I met Yahuvi at a conference, at the Association of African University Conference in Ghana. And after then, I engaged with him. And since then, I've gone through the ICANN community. I became a leader within the ICANN community. And today, I'm one of the Universal Acceptance Ambassadors. I think I've done this presentation this year alone in about 5 African countries. And this is just to say that the concept of universal acceptance, or the concept of what ICANN is doing, might not be really known to a lot of us. Because when we're talking about domain names, even for myself, I had a PhD from a Russell University, and throughout that, my PhD or my master's degree in telecommunications, I never heard of the word ICANN. It took me coming to an Association of African University conference in Ghana, that was about in 2017, to hear of the word ICANN. And for me, now understanding what ICANN is doing, I think it is important for vice chancellors to probably engage with those in computer science department, to sit down and understand what is the role of ICANN, what does ICANN do, what is the role of universal acceptance, because that is the only way we can incorporate these into our curriculum. So I want to also say the same thing for open science. Open science is still new for me, even though I manage research, even though I've done a lot of research. So this concept needs to come from bottom up, because speaking to vice chancellors about these things, sometimes it doesn't really work that way. Yes, we need the approval of the vice chancellors, but it has to be driven from the university. Professor Okebukola mentioned the fact that he wants .aau. I would say .aau will not sell. .aau is not needed, because this is something that you are going to buy for $185,000 US. And how do you make back the money? It's because we need to understand the concept of top-level domain names, and by the time we understand it, we understand that we have something that can actually replace .aau. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, there's somebody right next to you. Hand over the microphone. Okay.
Thank you very much. My university, City University of New York, we have about 250,000 students. We use, people are encouraged to use open educational resources. And my understanding, professors, so that the students who are the end users, they have more affordable materials. I think it's even free, many of these resources. And also, they are used for research. So I think what I'm kind of a bit puzzled about is that there are open educational resources, and it is a well-known set of materials that's already established, right? And I think one can see open science, maybe, as an aspect of it. But to use open educational resources in a way that it doesn't really reflect what is already established practice and available and, well-known, I have a real difficulty understanding what we're talking about. So I think maybe a bit of precision in terminology. And I'm not speaking about the speakers, I'm speaking about all of us, so that we have shared understanding of what there is and then what we're trying to do and how one thing either fits with or challenges the other might be a good idea.
Please, there's also a hand here. Maybe we'll listen to all the comments or questions before you speak.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. Could I make a comment on open access and open science? Right. I'm a user. So the open science platforms are all free. A whole load of young people use it. If you have a novel idea, you put it out there so nobody else can take it. So I had some molecular microbiology I did. It was very novel, it hadn't been done, so I put it on an open science platform. I then published the paper about 6 months later, and I still got it into a very high impact journal. So whatever we say, whether we're going to adopt it or not, your young people in your universities all over Africa are already doing it. And because it's so difficult for African students to get into the international journals, because they see where it comes from and then they don't even get reviewed. If you're out there, you will get into a journal and it will get reviewed and you'll push your ranking and your citation up. Please today, from a user, I can tell you that happens and it makes a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, there's a hand right here.
Thank you very much. My comment, or maybe a question, is to Joy on open science dialogue. The question is the context in which your presentation has addressed is looking at African universities. And I'm wondering why you have not looked at the global context in which you are trying to establish yourself. Because you have competitors, big international publishers, commercial publishers, on whose space you are trying to enter. And I haven't had a challenge. How now this open science dialogue, which you are trying to establish on a territory whose owners have more lawyers than you have, and what challenges you are facing with these competitors, so that your vice chancellors who are sitting here, when they are deciding on the budget, they can say, University of Africa, can we take a position, a stand on publishing? And how will we support this publishing? Because the people who are sitting here, they are the authors of the papers, which instead of sending them to you, they are sending them to big commercial publishers. And they are also the one who are used to as peer reviewers of those papers. So those people are exploiting us many times. We are the authors, we are the what is it? We are the reviewers, and now we have to buy what we have worked. While you, who is trying to give it for free, we are leaving you alone in your corner crying. So please, I think, give us, if possible, because even at the university, there are different interests. Researchers at universities, they have their own interests. I'm publishing because I want to share what I know with others, but I'm also publishing because a day when I'm promoted, I want to use. So there are a lot of things that so I would like you to look at this issue also from the global perspective, so that your vice chancellor can understand what are you struggling with and in which way can they help you. Thank you.
I like the way you just went straight to the deep end on that. Yes. When open science came to fore, first of all, let's go back to September 2018, when Coalition S, which is a group of funders, mandated that publishers must make any research that is funded by funders or governments open access. So we were in a situation where we're seeing publishers being a bit uncomfortable because all of a sudden their work had to be accessible because they were using a traditional model that has always worked for them, which is through the subscription basis. And it's from there we found that we had very high article processing costs. It was part of my presentation. And some of these article processing costs were so prohibitive. The famous one was Nature, where it was 9,300 to publish euros, to be specific, to publish in Nature so that you can access it for free. So one of the challenges that have come, yes, is that we are fighting the big boys, for lack of better words. But what has come out of this? So fast forward to 2022, now last year, the World Bank came up with the Global Equity Program, and it was in partnership with our partner, PLOS, because you remember I told you PLOS were the first ones in the year 2000 to come up with APCs and they were coming up with affordable APCs so that research could be accessible, and they realized that this is becoming unsustainable for researchers because it's still leading to inequity. So what is the World Bank Equitable Program? If you come from a low-income country or a middle-income country, particularly a low-income country, as classified by the World Bank, there's a list of publishers that you'll have access free of charge to publishing. That includes Nature now, as of this year, okay? So what is happening is that we are influencing change. That is the power of open science. We are influencing change and creating equity in the academic community. So as much as those, and I like the way some of you are picking certain pillars of open science, like in the case of publishing. Yes, open publishing, thanks to open access, existed, but then it led to high publishing costs, all right? So it still takes you back, especially from a researcher who comes from the global south, back to not accessing some of this information. So thanks to the Global Equity Program, now we are having publishers who are signing up to join that program, and there's quite a list. And out of that, if you come from a low-income country, researchers can publish for free, whether you're an early career researcher, mid-level career researcher, or a mature researcher. Okay? If you're from a mid-level, a medium-income country, the costs are subsidized, such that an institute can afford it. So yes, the change is happening, but I can assure you in the beginning, there was a bit of discomfort when the issue of open science came in, and it is precisely that reason why university leadership were hesitant in adopting open science. So let me let you know that right now, if you come from a low-income country or a middle-income country, just check, just Google World Bank Global Equity Program. It was in my slides, the World Bank Equity Program, and see if your country is listed. If your country is listed, it also shows the list of journals that publishers that have actually joined that program, and more publishers are getting involved in it as well, so that your researchers will have free access to publish within those journals. So they don't need to pay anything, and it will be accessible to everyone. In regards to the open knowledge, ma'am, again, open knowledge is still one of the pillars that fall under open science. So we want, when this conversation on open science is taking place, especially within the university community, that everybody understands that the various pillars we've been talking about in silos fall under open science, and that is why we need to have mandates, because each of them have implications on how they can support the university. Thank you.
Please, can we clap for Joy? And of course, for Yawovi too. I just want to thank the two of you for your thought-provoking presentations, witnessed by the questions and the remarks that we've all listened to. Thank you very much for your participation. And with this, we close the session. Thank you.